The untold legacy of samurai martial arts, beyond the katana. The katana. It's the image everyone associates with a samurai. But what if I told you that the blade was just one piece of a far more complex martial art tradition? For centuries, samurai martial arts were passed down in secret, recorded in scrolls accessible only to specific bloodlines. When the samurai class was abolished in the 1870s, much of this knowledge scattered. Some techniques survived, others became legends. Many were simply forgotten. Today, we're exploring 7 martial arts that define the samurai warrior. From the philosophical code that shaped their minds to the weapon and techniques that made them legends on the battlefield. This isn't just about sword fighting. This is about strategy, survival, and a way of life that went far beyond the blade. Number 7. Bushido, the code that defined the warrior mind. Let's start with what made a samurai more than just a skilled fighter. In the West, we have the concept of chivalry. In feudal Japan, they had Bushido, the way of the warrior. Bushido emerged during the Kamakura period as a moral and ethical code that governed samurai behavior. But here's what most people get wrong. It wasn't just about honor duels and dramatic last stands. Bushido encompassed 7 core values: righteousness, courage, benevolence, respect, honesty, honor, and loyalty. These weren't abstract concepts. They shaped every aspect of a samurai's life, from how they treated peasants to how they conducted themselves in their lord's service. One practical application: before engaging in single combat, samurai were expected to announce their name, lineage, and accomplishments. This wasn't showboating. It was a way to ensure honor was maintained and to prevent accidental conflicts between warriors of the same clan. After the samurai clash was abolished in 1876, Bushido didn't disappear. It evolved. Modern Japanese martial arts still emphasize these principles. The bow before and after training isn't just ceremony, it's a living remnant of Bushido. Today, martial artists worldwide debate how relevant these feudal concepts are in modern practice. But whether you're training in Tokyo or Texas, the emphasis on discipline, respect, and self-improvement traces back directly to the samurai code. Number 6. Kenjutsu, the original art of the sword. Now let's talk about the weapon everyone associates with samurai, the katana. But the Hollywood version of sword fighting. That's not Kenjutsu. Kenjutsu is the battlefield art of swordsmanship that was taught to samurai during feudal Japan. This wasn't sport fencing or tournament kata. This was practical, lethal technique designed for armored combat. Training began in childhood and never truly ended. Students learned not just how to cut, but how to read an opponent's intentions, maintain perfect balance on uneven terrain, and fight in conditions that would disable most warriors. Rain obscuring your vision? You trained for that. Fighting on a muddy hillside? Covered. Dense fog limiting visibility? Part of the curriculum. The goal was to forge a connection between warrior and weapon so complete that the sword became an extension of the body. Every cut had to be precise. Every movement had purpose. Wasted motion meant death. And when defeat was inevitable, surrender wasn't an option. A samurai had 2 choices: fight to the death or commit seppuku, a ritualized form of suicide that preserved honor even in death. Hollywood has tried to capture this art, with mixed results. Films like The Last Samurai get the aesthetic right, but often miss the technical details. In one scene, a character attempts a high kick during sword combat. In actual Kenjutsu, kicks were kept low, below the waist, to maintain balance and avoid exposing yourself to a counter cut. Small details like this separate theatrical sword fighting from the real martial art. Today, Kenjutsu survives in various ryuha or schools, each preserving different lineages of technique. Some focus on dueling, others emphasize battlefield tactics, but all maintain that same core principle: the sword and the swordsman must be one. Number 5. Kyujutsu, the Zen of archery. Before the katana became the symbol of the samurai, there was another weapon that defined the warrior class: the bow. Kyujutsu is samurai archery, but it's fundamentally different from Western archery traditions. The technique is infused with Zen philosophy, emphasizing mental clarity and spiritual discipline as much as physical skill. The principle was simple but profound. The arrow finds its target when the mind is still. Technique alone wasn't enough. You had to achieve a state of mushin, no mind, where conscious thought disappeared and action flowed naturally. During the Heian period, archery on foot was standard practice, but as war evolved in the Kamakura period, mounted archery became essential. Three main forms emerged. Yabusame, ritual mounted archery performed at shrines, emphasizing precision and ceremony. Kasagake, military practice combining horsemanship and archery, preparing warriors for battlefield conditions. Inuomono, a controversial form where mounted archers shot at dogs, used primarily for training. Today, Yabusame survives as a ceremonial art performed at festivals and shrines throughout Japan. Watching a rider in full samurai armor hit 3 targets at full gallop is witnessing a live connection to feudal warfare. But the real legacy of Kyujutsu isn't the physical technique, it's the mental discipline. That emphasis on clearing the mind, on achieving stillness before action, influenced everything from tea ceremony to modern martial arts philosophy. Number 4. Iaijutsu, the art of the lightning draw. Picture this, 2 samurai face each other, swords sheathed. The tension is unbearable. Then, in less than a second, it's over. One is dead, and the other is already resheathing his blade. That's Iaijutsu, and it might be the most misunderstood samurai martial art. The technique involves drawing the sword, making a fatal cut, cleaning the blade, and returning it to the scabbard in one fluid sequence. Done correctly, an opponent drops before they can even draw their own weapon. But here's the crucial detail most people miss. Iaijutsu wasn't designed for the battlefield. It was developed for a very specific problem that emerged during peacetime. Between wars, when shogunates changed hands, losing samurai often became ronin, masterless warriors. These displaced fighters sometimes sought revenge through ambushes and sudden attacks. Samurai began wearing their swords everywhere, even at home. If attacked in a corridor, a doorway, or a tea house, you needed to end the threat immediately. A prolonged fight could endanger bystanders or dishonor your household. The technique looks simple, but the margin for error is zero. A blade that catches on the scabbard, a draw that's even slightly off angle, or a cut that misses the vital target. Any of these mistakes is fatal. Today, Iaijutsu evolved into Iaido, a modern martial art focused on kata and form rather than actual combat. Practitioners spend years perfecting the draw, seeking the same unity of mind and movement the old samurai pursued. The difference: modern practitioners train for spiritual development and technical precision. The original samurai trained because their lives depended on being faster than the assassin waiting in the shadows. Number 3. Naginatajutsu, the women warrior's weapon. When you picture a samurai, you probably imagine a man, but feudal Japan had women warriors too, and they wielded a weapon that gave them a crucial advantage. The naginata is a polearm with a curved blade, typically 6 to 9 feet long. Think of it as a sword on a staff, and it was devastating in the right hands. While men went to war, the onamusha, female members of the samurai class, defended estates and villages. The naginata was their weapon of choice, and for good reason. Range is everything in combat. A naginata wielder can strike from well outside a sword's reach. The long handle allows for sweeping cuts that can control space, and the blade can hook and deflect incoming attacks. Against an opponent with a katana, a skilled naginata user forces them into a defensive retreat, maintaining killing distance while staying beyond their reach. One of the most famous practitioners was Tomo Gozen, a warrior who fought in the Genpei War. Historical accounts describe her as especially beautiful, with white skin, long hair, and charming features. But also note, she was a remarkably strong archer, and as a swordswoman, she was a warrior worth 1,000. She fought alongside men on the front lines, proving that martial skill transcended gender in samurai tradition. Today, Naginatajutsu survives as Atarashi Naginata, a modern competitive sport. Practitioners wear protective gear and engage in one-on-one matches called shiai, scoring points by striking designated targets on the head, throat, torso, and wrists. While it's evolved into a sport, the fundamental principles remain. Maintain distance, control the center line, and use the weapon's reach to dominate the engagement. The art is now practiced predominantly by women in Japan, creating a direct lineage to those Onimusha who defended their homes centuries ago. Number 2. Tantojutsu, the last resort blade. Every samurai carried a katana, but the weapon that saved their lives in desperate situations was often something much smaller. The tanto is a short blade, anywhere from 6 to 12 inches long. It could be hidden in a kimono, tucked into a nobi belt, or even concealed in the hair. And when fighting got too close for a sword, the tanto became essential. The katana requires distance to be effective. In a grappling situation, pressed against a wall, or fighting in an extremely confined space, a 2 or 3 foot blade becomes a liability. The tanto thrived exactly where the katana failed. Tantojutsu focused on 2 primary actions: tsuki, thrusting, and giri, cutting. The techniques were direct and brutal, finding gaps in armor, targeting the throat, face, or underarms where protection was minimal. Medieval samurai armor was impressive, but it had weaknesses. The spaces between plates, the gaps at joints, these were the targets for tanto techniques. A skilled practitioner could find these openings and exploit them in seconds. The Onimusha, those female warriors we discussed earlier, often carried a specialized tanto called a kaiken. It served dual purposes, as a close-quarter weapon, and in worst circumstances, as a means to commit jigai, the female equivalent of seppuku. While modern martial artists don't train with tanto for actual combat anymore, the principles survive in knife defense systems worldwide. The emphasis on controlling distance, protecting vital targets, and using short, efficient movements all trace back to Tantojutsu. Today, the tanto is primarily a ceremonial object or collector's item. But for the samurai, it was the equalizer, the weapon you hoped you'd never need but couldn't afford to be without. Number 1. The Yari and Battlefield Strategy. Beyond the blade. Here's the truth that shatters the romantic image of the samurai. On the actual battlefield, the katana was a secondary weapon. The primary weapon of samurai was the Yari, a straight-bladed spear ranging from 6 to 12 feet long. And understanding why reveals the real genius of the samurai class. Samurai weren't just warriors, they were tacticians, strategists, and commanders who understood that winning battles required more than individual skill with the blade. A samurai army effectiveness depended on combining arms tactics, archers creating cover fire, spear infantry holding formation, cavalry breaking enemy lines, and eventually, the introduction of matchlock firearms. The Yari was perfect for formation combat. Multiple warriors with spears could create an impenetrable wall, stopping cavalry charges and keeping enemy infantry at bay. The reach advantage was overwhelming. But the real sophistication was in the planning. Samurai commanders studied terrain, weather, supply lines, and enemy movements. They learned to read landscapes, identifying advantageous positions and dangerous approaches. Could your forces cross that river while under fire? Where could enemy archers hide in that tree line? How do you supply troops in mountainous terrain? These were the questions that won or lost wars. The Portuguese traders introduced matchlock firearms to Japan in 1543. Samurai didn't reject them as dishonorable. They adapted, integrating guns into their tactics within decades. By the Battle of Nagashino in 1575, Oda Nobunaga's forces used rotating volleys of matchlock fire to devastating effect. This ability, this willingness to evolve tactics and adopt new technology, was as much a part of the samurai tradition as any sword technique. The katana became the symbol of the samurai because it represented their identity and honor. But their effectiveness as a warrior class came from disciplined minds that could plan campaigns, adapt to changing situations, and lead men in the chaos of battle. Hollywood shows us solo warriors cutting through enemies with katanas. History shows us something more impressive. Military leaders who could coordinate complex operations involving thousands of troops and multiple weapon systems. The samurai weren't just skilled fighters. They were military professionals whose strategic thinking influenced Japanese warfare for centuries. From the philosophical code of Bushido to the strategic brilliance of battlefield tactics, the samurai tradition was far more complex than popular culture suggests. These 7 martial arts weren't separate disciplines. They were pieces of a complete warrior education that developed the body, mind, and spirit. Some of these arts survive today in altered form. Others exist only in scrolls and historical records, but all of them contributed to one of history's most legendary warrior traditions. The next time you see a samurai film or pick up a martial arts weapon, remember, you're touching a legacy that goes far beyond the blade. What samurai martial art should we explore in depth next? The strategic thinking behind castle sieges? The complete training regimen of a feudal warrior? Drop your suggestions in the comments. On Martial Road, we follow the shadows others forgot. Subscribe so you don't miss where they lead.